Hey, good day, everyone. State Representative Brad Halbrook here, along with a special edition of the Illinois Freedom Caucus live stream. I've got a good friend, the chairman of the Freedom Caucus, Chris Miller, here with us. We have leader Representative Adam Niemerg. We have the state director of the Freedom Caucus, Colin Mosley, and someone who is a Freedom Caucus adjacent, Representative Martin McLaughlin of the 52nd District. Welcome, gentlemen, to tonight's event as we kind of talk about the midterms and kind of take a little bit of a crystal ball out into the future, kind of what we see happening over the next several months. And again, welcome, Leader McLaughlin. We're glad to have you here at this time.
Thank you for the invite. Happy to be here, gentlemen.
Yeah. Well, with that, let's just get right into our next slide that kind of talks about the lay of the land in the state of Illinois and kind of what the makeup of the General Assembly, both in the House and the Senate, looks like. And with that, I'm just going to open up the floor, Leader Niemerg, and maybe we'll go to Miller and then Marty, and let's kind of get this going.
Absolutely. Thanks for tuning in with us here this evening, folks. And also, I want to thank Representative Marty McLaughlin to join us here this evening. He's a conservative up in the Chicagoland area. He's doing everything he can to win elections up in the suburbs and flip that suburban area conservative. So thanks for joining us, Marty. But folks, as you can see, we've got 40 Republicans out of 118 House members, 19 Republicans out of 59 senators, and we need to win some seats. We need to pick up some more seats to be veto-proof, because right now the Democrats can basically run any piece of legislation that they'd like to, and the veto session, which is supposed to be a conversation about vetoed bills by the governor, has just turned into an extended crazy session where they run very woke radical bills. So if we can pick up a couple of seats, which I think is doable, but Republicans really need to work hard on that, then we can start to stem the tide and push back against the radical wokeness that we see in Springfield. But as always, we're there at the front lines. We just had a press conference yesterday in Springfield discussing the illegal immigrant police officer up in the suburbs. So we're always constantly fighting and pushing back.
Yeah, exactly. And Chairman Miller, I see that you've got a map off to your right shoulder that kind of mimics what we're seeing here on the screen. What's going on with this map? There's a lot of red in this, what many people will say is a deep blue state, and of course has supermajority Democrats, and all the constitutional officers are Democrats. Let's weigh in on that.
Well, I think that when you look at this map, it has to kind of jog your critical thinking skills, because I know our beloved governor had mentioned multitudes of times that this is the fairest map that has ever been drawn in the history of map making. And one thing that we do know about the Democrats, to draw 78 House seats out of this very, very red Illinois map, they have to be map drawing geniuses.
Exactly. And Marty, I don't know that the Democrats are great election wizards. I just think they're better at making maps. It kind of helps them at the election time to put them in the supermajority that they have in Springfield.
Yeah, I've been in it 3 times, and they gerrymandered it 4 years ago. So the first time I ran, it was in a 53% Republican leaning district, and they reversed it to 53% Democrat leaning. And I've won twice there in a purple district. And, I'm cracking up the other day. I'm at church thinking about Advent candles, pink and purple. You've got to win in the purple districts. And that's the only way that we get, this imbalance at the state legislature brought back. We have to find people that can win in purple districts. And unfortunately, we keep picking people on immutable characteristics and not on their ability to win. And it's something that I've been very critical about of our leadership, which has got me in a 4x6 office with barely any oxygen, as you all know. But look, you don't have to be right. We just have to know what we're doing wrong. And we've been doing it wrong for about 14 years, haven't added any seats. And how does a 59, 60-year-old white man like myself win in a conservative district? Perhaps we should look at kind of how I'm doing it and replicate that. Not just look for someone that has got all these characteristics, left-handed, partial Pacific Rim Islander, partial Jewish, good Lord, by the time we put these candidates up, I'm not sure who they are. Phyllis Schlafly said it best. As a conservative, we need to be a contrast to my opponent, not an echo. We've been echoing moderate Democrats in the suburbs, and we've been getting our butts kicked. So let's get some people to do a contrast.
Yeah. Director Colin, we were seeing here, we've got several bullet points: cost of living, taxes, energy, education. Democrats have failed everybody at every level. They may be really good map makers and they may have super majorities, but they are really failing on the policy when it comes to making Illinois a better place to live. The comments that I've seen on social media over the last several weeks and months, people are enraged. So many people are moving out of the state. Marty, I think you said it best about who's really winning in this state of Illinois when it comes to profitability. And it's what, U-Haul, Mayflower, some of those companies?
Yeah, I say we're growing three things in this state: the profits of U-Haul, Mayflower, and we're growing government jobs at the highest level in 14 years, government employees.
But Colin, we've got to get, the people have got to kind of get engaged in this midterm election. We have this severe midterm lag. 500,000 plus Republican voters will sit this out. Trump got the highest number of votes, I believe, for a Republican president last go around. But yet, when it comes to midterms, we drop several 100,000 numbers off. What's your thoughts about how people can get engaged and what we're going to do to overcome this midterm lag?
Well, I think the first problem that we have in Illinois is, and this is what the Democrats want, is people are wore out. They've been worn down. They've felt the consequences of these bad public policies for a long time, and they've just come to believe that way out, except to leave Illinois. That's what most of our neighbors are choosing, right, is to leave Illinois, to what you guys mentioned about U-Haul. The silver lining is that Illinois can be restored, because every consequence living with is bad public policy, and that can be changed with good public policy. And most of that good policy is simply just undoing what's been done. And so, we believe in that hope. But to your point, people have got to turn out in a midterm election. Whether they're Republican voters or swing voters, general election voters, whatever you want to call them, there's 700,000 people that got out and voted for Donald Trump that simply didn't vote either at all or didn't vote Republican in 2022. We cannot allow that to happen again. And I don't care if they call themselves Republican, if they call themselves independent, libertarian, whatever they may be, we are probably going to the same grocery stores as these people. We're sitting in church with them. Our kids are in sports together. They're out there, and we've got to be diligent in getting them out to the polls in about 11 months or 10 months from now if they early vote.
Right. And so the primary is coming up quick. That's a March 17th date. And we don't have election day anymore. We have election season, or maybe election trimester, where you can vote 40 days in advance of that primary, 40 days in advance of the general. But then yet ballots are counted for another 14 days post-election season, waiting on all that stuff that's in the mail to come in yet, which is crazy to think that we're nearly 2 months of election season, or election trimester, if you will, to try to get through this election. Florida, it's crazy how much more efficient and better are at elections than we are here in the state of Illinois. They can have the thing kind of counted up and put to bed before 11 o'clock or midnight. Maybe it's as early as 10 o'clock that night they got the things wrapped up. So Illinois has an uncanny way of making things extremely complex, and maybe that's by design.
And what's interesting too, I'm curious to hear from you guys. If you do the numbers, some of those hundreds of thousands of folks that we just talked about, they're not all in Chicago and Cook County. There was, 6 figures in Mike Boss district down here where some of us live. There's 6 figures of them in Mary Miller's district. There's 6 figures of them in Darren LaHood's district. That's, central, west central, southern Illinois. It's not Chicago. So those folks are reachable. And Marty, I'm sure you've got them in your backyard too, but you do a pretty good job of getting out to your purple and your swing and those folks.
Yeah, the numbers up here, guys, just to break it down, and it's really this is a crucible of what the problem is for the metro areas we need to win. More than 1/3 of the voters don't identify as right left anymore. Give you straight numbers. My last election, 16,000 Republicans voted, 19,000 Democrats, registered Democrats. And then the other 25,000 people who voted were not identified. So that's the real key. We've got to be able to, through policy, through good presentation, convince independents that what we're aligned with is what they want for their families. And if we do that successfully, then we've got an opportunity to win some of these districts. And that's what I always try to do. I joke all the time. I said it's like a farming event. EIEIO. Everyone's independent. Everyone's issue oriented. And I say that all the time, and people look at me and go, "Wait a minute, you're not a conservative Republican?" So, well, of course I am. But there's 1/3 of the voters that thinks like I think as an independent businessman, and I've got to connect with them that way. I think that's the key to how you get the independents. Because some of this stuff on the progressive left, as we all know, it's way out there. Even the moderate Democrats blush when they hear what their progressive side is doing. So, independents are really the key.
Right. Exactly. Do we want to go to the next slide? There we go. Marty, so this is time for you to give us kind of an update.
All right. So here's what's going on. I'm a grassroots candidate. I was not supported by the Republican establishment. And when I say was not supported, I mean zero. I was not supported by the House Republican organization. And again, I mean zero. So I've been elected through grassroots. And really that's happened because as an independent business person, I'm constantly going out and messaging about, we need good jobs. We need to get government off of our back. We need to get the schools listening to parents again, so that when I drop my kid off at the front door, that's not where my rights end. It's just where they begin. I mean, these are messages that resonate with people that are just tired. Seniors up here are getting crushed, guys. I mean, how long did it take us to get that senior exemption through? And I think we wanted around 95,000 or 100. They raised it 10 grand. I'm constantly being hit with taxes, as you guys are. So rather than sit on my hands, I ran 4 property tax seminars from July till September and had a couple of 100 constituents come out, Democrats, independents. I said, hey, here's how you challenge your property taxes. Here's the process. So I'm trying to be as proactive as possible. How I can be helped by your constituents is reach out to me at marty4illinois.com. I'm looking to continue to build grassroots. A phone call from Effingham or Cairo up here costs the same as calling from Barrington to Libertyville. So I'm building a team. I'm in my state campaign office right now, and our objective is to get 2,000 voters who are low propensity Republicans to go for mail-in ballots so that we can get them to show up come March 17th and then again in November. That's the key. If I can get that to happen, I can win this election again. But then if we're smart, and unfortunately our leadership has not been, we might want to replicate this process in the metro area so that we can start winning these purple districts.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Any closing thoughts before we wrap up for the evening?
Just go ahead. I think Chris has got something to say.
Yeah, Chris.
Well, I was just going to say that, it's one of those issues is just like Marty is being proactive in controlling what he can control. And I think that each one of us state representatives, I know I got 5 counties, and in those 5 counties, there's around 2,000 votes per county that don't vote in the midterms, which is 10,000 votes. And so I know one of my goals is for every one of those votes to be chased and every one of those votes to be counted, and hopefully that there'll be an uptick in the number of voters that actually vote in this midterm election from my district. And if if all 40 districts would do that, then I think that we're going to see a resurgence in the number of Republican votes cast in this midterm. And if everybody just sits on their hands and throws up their hands and say, well, we can't do anything about it, then the outcomes will be the same. And so I say we got to fight for freedom, because that fight never ends.
Yeah, and I was going to thank you guys for coming up. Hanover Park's just a couple of miles from me on that issue of the non-legal police officer and that crummy bill that went through at 2 a.m. that we were not brought up to speed on. I asked a few of our fine members about that bill who are police officers, and they said, yeah, it's fine. Nothing's going to happen. You can't carry a firearm. It's a nothing bill. So unfortunately, I ended up voting for it. I look back on it and go, that was a dumb idea, because I was told that this would never happen. And look, this just happened. And frankly, I hold our leadership responsible for passing a crummy bill to get their name on it. And look, I'm for smaller, less government, guys. When did we go down there to get our names on bills that do nothing? I mean, I still look at our team and say, not you gentlemen, but I want less laws. I could care less if my name's ever on a bill, ever. I would love us to pull 20% off the board. But our group gets all excited when, like, they've got a license plate with 19 titles on it and an office with draperies. And, I mean, who cares about that stuff? Less government, smaller government. So thank you for coming up and, having a news conference on that, because I think it's an important issue.
You know who cares about that stuff, don't you, Marty?
Who's that?
People that lose elections.
Well, hey, you can't impact policy unless you win, and you can't win unless you have a strategy. Yeah. And I'm still waiting to hear a winning strategy from our team. I mean, Adam and I went in together, right, Adam? I mean, we're still waiting to add a butt into the seat. You gentlemen, Chris, I don't know, Brad, have you ever added seats since you've been there?
I don't think it has been. It's been.
And again, I don't mean you, but the leadership.
Right. Yeah, the Republican caucus has lost seats. I don't know if they have lost seats every cycle. They may have held on a cycle, but I don't know that we've gained in the time that I've been there.
So there is that I can recall in the last 6 to 8 years, there's been, I think, one cycle where the House has picked up seats. And this is going to blow your mind, but guess who is at the top of the ballot? Donald Trump. So, some of the people blame everything that's gone wrong on him. Well, either in 20 or 16, we picked up seats when he was at the top of the ballot. So, food for thought.
The media will hate the next. Look, they hated Reagan. They hated Nixon. They couldn't stand Ford, right? They hated both Bushes. So half our lives were going to be under the opposing party. We might want to learn how to get along with it, but we also might want to learn something from it. So I'd love to see people talk about the policies. Thomas Sowell came out the other day and said there was never a time where lowering federal taxes did not increase revenues. So I'm thinking of getting a shirt for Christmas, calling myself a Soul Man, and I was going to get Miller one, but I got to spell it right for him. Sowell, Thomas Sowell. So I'm a huge fan.
Yeah, exactly. All right. What did we leave out? Anything else we need to discuss?
Christmas. Merry Christmas to all you gentlemen and your listeners.
Happy New Year's.
I got Snoopy on here because he's giving Jeff Bezos a run for his money, trying to cut into his Amazon delivery. So I got a new grandson, gentlemen, and so that's 2 boys. I had 5 girls. Now I've got 2 grandsons. So God is smiling and laughing at me all at the same time. God bless him.
With that, gentlemen, is there any closing thoughts, any closing comments we want to make here before we close out for the time?
Yeah, folks, just tune in next week. Keep hope alive. We're gonna, fix this thing in the state of Illinois. I want to thank Marty again for coming on with us here today. Again, he's up in the suburbs fighting the conservative battle, and he's winning. So
yeah, exactly. Chris,
I know that Representative Leader Hallbrook has some very nice Christmas apparel, Make Illinois Great Again hats, and so make sure you contact him to get that under the tree this year.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, right. Thank you, gentlemen. I always enjoy being on the Hall Brookings Institute of Advanced Conservative Studies. So thank you for having me, Commander Hallbrook, Lieutenant Miller, and General Niemerg. Thank you, all of you guys. I appreciate it.
Class is always in session.
Yeah, the learning never stops. All right, with that, we'll say good night, everybody.